Hare Krishna.
So today we're going to be discussing the Bhagavad Gita, and here I put the title, Rethinking Life. All of us went to school, and in school we were preparing for the rest of our life. We were going to classes, we were going to lessons, we were learning many, many things that would help us for the rest of our journey in this world. So today, dear friends, we're going to school again. This was my school in London, Copeland Community School. I spent close to 16 years of my life in this school. And actually for many years I was thinking I want to go back to this school to relive all the memories. I don't know how many of you have been back to your old school, but I was thinking for many years I'll go back to my old school. And one day I was driving past my school and the whole school had been knocked down. And as soon as I saw it, I hit the brakes, I came out of the car and my heart just dropped, because I felt like it was just a museum of memories that had just come down. And then I realized, yes, everything in the material world is temporary. It all moves on. So this was my school. This is a class photo. See if you can spot me. The most handsome one, of course. This is me right here. And this is me as a kid. Yes, you can do that. I was a good kid. I was a good student. I was very shy, actually. Still am. And I had a good time at school, actually. I enjoyed school. I don't know how all of you felt about school, but I enjoyed it. Of course, there were difficulties. This was my school timetable. And the hardest thing was this, double geography with Mr. Clark on a Monday morning. That was like serious tapasya. But after that, it did kind of get better. But what I have to share with you is that while I was at school, I was growing up, I was 14, 15, and I was feeling like I'm learning so many things here at school, but I think there are certain things that I'm not learning at school. In school, I was thinking they teach you what to think, but I don't know how much they teach you how to think. Isn't it? So much of school is just about memorizing things. The main question we have to ask the teacher is it going to be on the exam? If it's not on the exam, I don't care. I just want to know what's on the exam, I'll memorize it, get through. I was thinking, I don't think I'm learning how to think here. In school, I felt like I was learning academic knowledge, but I didn't feel like I was necessarily learning life knowledge, isn't it? Which subject teaches you how to deal with the loss of a loved one? Which subject teaches you what to do if you lose all your money? What subject teaches you how to deal with a relationship breakup? There's so many things in life that we learn at school, but sometimes we don't learn necessarily life knowledge. I'm not here on a campaign against Australian schools. School is very good, but maybe there's other things we need to learn. Along with skill set, we also need to learn mindset. How do you focus? Were we taught at school how to pay attention? We were told, pay attention. But were we told how to pay attention? What it requires to bring the mind to the present? Maybe not. In school, we were taught how to make money. But were we also taught how to utilize money? You can become successful in this world, but if you don't know how to utilize that success, it can actually bring misery. School teaches you the laws of society, but does it teach you the laws of nature? Does it teach you the energies that are going on in the universe, the influences that are there, what's affecting your fortunes in the world? That we don't learn. School may teach you how to find success, but did school teach you how to embrace failure? Perhaps more of the quality of our life is determined with how well we deal with failure, more than necessarily what we do to achieve success. School taught us to develop our competence, but maybe not so much about developing our character. Of course, there were things, but where was the emphasis? And school, we learned all the general subjects. We all had to do maths, we all had to do English, we all had to do biology, chemistry, and physics. We all had to do double geography on a Monday morning with Mr. Clark. But did school teach you what is your unique ability? Perhaps that is just as valuable to know as all of the general subjects, because Krishna says every soul is amazing and every soul has a unique psycho-physical nature. And if you learn what your nature is, then you can live a happy, healthy, and very, very wholesome life. Dear friends, we learn so many things in school, but there are certain things we don't learn, and these things are essential for living a happy life. This is a picture at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is crestfallen. Vepatuscha sharire me romaharshashya jayate gandivam shramshate hastat vakcheva paridayate. Arjuna says, my body is shaking, my hairs are standing on end, my body is sweating, and the Gandiva bow, see this? He says the Gandiva bow is slipping from my hand. He says, Krishna, I'm completely bewildered, I'm confused, I have no idea what to do. Can you see Krishna? Krishna is smiling. It's bad enough when you're going through a terrible time in your life, and then when the person next to you is smiling, it makes it 10 times worse. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the great teacher, asks, why is Krishna smiling? He says Krishna is smiling because Arjuna is the most established, successful, competent, powerful person. And now that Arjuna has become like a humble student. Krishna is smiling because Krishna is the charioteer. He's the one who's supposed to take the orders. He's the one who just does what he's told. And now the charioteer is becoming the guru. And Krishna is smiling because there's a battlefield. And a fratricidal war is just about to take place. And the battlefield has now become a classroom. Vishwanath says, Krishna is smiling at the irony of the whole situation because everything has turned upside down. And what ensues is the conversation of the Bhagavad Gita. This is Srila Prabhupada's rendition of the Gita. Srila Prabhupada did it very, very meticulously. Here you have Devanagari. This literally means language of the gods, the Sanskrit, the original script within which Krishna spoke. Srila Prabhupada also gave us Ucharan. This means the Roman transliteration. This is very, very beautiful because it means we can recite every Sanskrit verse. Do you know what happens is when you recite the Sanskrit verse, the vibration, because it emanated from Krishna's mouth as what we call Shabda Brahman. There's a sense in when you hear the Sanskrit, it instills the wisdom in a deeper place in your heart just by the vibration. Srila Prabhupada gave us that gift. This is known as Padartokti. Every single verse Prabhupada translated, he ensured there was a word for word synonyms. That is very important because sometimes people can just quote anything and translate it as anything and you have no idea. One time a devotee was giving a class and he says, and Krishna says, offer everything to me. Sharirara vidyajal, jadendriyate. Everyone was very impressed. Wow, he knows. That's not the verse exactly. So sometimes there can be a verse, but how do you know where did the translation come from? So therefore, this is very, very valuable, although we generally skip over it. This is the translation, is known as Vakya Yojan. And then there's a commentary. This is known as Tika, or sometimes they call it Vigraha. Srila Prabhupada painstakingly did this. This knowledge is the school of life. And if you study it closely, you study it meticulously, you study it with some patience and with some guidance, then actually what can happen is it can answer every single question. And so this is a very, very great gift of Srila Prabhupada. So today, what I thought we could do is try to go through the 18 chapters of the Gita. Now the Gita, you can look at it in unlimited ways. But today, I will share with you 8 main things that Krishna teaches in the Gita, and you'll see how systematically Krishna teaches everything you need to know about how to live life. And these are the things that we're going to go through. The first, second chapters, they deal with these subjects. And then between 3 and 5, Krishna is talking about lifestyle. Then he goes on to talk about the mind. And then Krishna will talk about love, bhakti. And then he'll explain how he can be encountered, how he can be seen. And then in the 6 chapters towards the end of the Gita, Krishna will talk all about lifestyle. And then Krishna will finally end by talking about how we re-enter life with an elevated vision so that we can do incredible things. Any book you see in the world, The Power of Now, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, The Secret. Actually, all of the seeds of all of these books you will find within these topics here. And therefore, the Gita, if you study it systematically, it can give incredible knowledge. Shankaracharya, he says that the Vedas are like a forest, and the Upanishads are like the flowers in that forest. And the Bhagavad Gita is like a garland of all of those flowers. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur says the Ganga came in many eons ago through the feet of Krishna, and it came as the river. And if you bathe in the Ganga, then you will flow towards Krishna's feet. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says later on in Dwapara Yuga that Ganga came through Krishna's mouth. And it came in the form of the Bhagavad Gita. And if you hear those words, then you'll come again and meet Krishna's smiling face. And then he says, in Kali Yuga, that Ganga came from the tears of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he chants Harinam Sankirtan. And therefore one who drowns in the Kirtan, come tomorrow morning and drown in the Kirtan. When he drowns in the Kirtan, enters the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the Ganga comes in different forms, and the Gita is said to be one of those forms of the Ganga that take one right back to Krishna. So are you ready? We're going to go through 18 chapters. Are you ready? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 2 sections at a time, and then I'm going to stop and see what questions you have. I'm going to have to go pretty quickly because we've got a lot to cover. But I'm going to go quickly because I want you to see the whole journey of the Gita in one. Okay? Fasten your seatbelts. Every single chapter of the Gita is known as a yoga because every single chapter of the Gita gives us a clue as to how we can connect with Krishna. The very, very first chapter of the Gita is known as Arjuna Vishad Yoga. Know what the word Vishad means? Disappointment. The word Vishad means dejection. The word Vishad means distress. The word Vishad means depressed. The first chapter is known as the Yoga of Depression. Would you like to sign up? for the yoga of depression. How can the first chapter be a yoga of depression? It is. Because sometimes you have to have a material breakdown to have a spiritual breakthrough. Only when life gets us to question, sometimes only when life frustrates us, only when we really develop a desire, a desperation to know what is beyond, can we actually really begin the spiritual journey. And therefore the Bhagavad Gita begins Arjun Vishad Yoga. And Arjun is feeling like this is not going to make him happy. This is not going to make him successful. He can win. Arjun has no doubt that he's going to fight and he's going to win. His doubt is, will winning make me happy? Will success make me happy? Everyone has a definition of success, isn't it? Now Arjun is questioning, is my definition of success the right definition? Once at graduation ceremony, a teacher called two students, Manish and Pooja, purely fictional characters, and asked them, what will be a successful life for you? Manish comes forward, he says, I want 365 cars, one for each day. I want 10 bank accounts, I want my own island with my custom-made mansions with all AI technology. Teacher looks at Pooja, says, what do you want? She says, I'm very simple, I just want to marry Manish. One way or the other. Everyone is looking for different things, thinking that's success. My question to you is it possible to be successful and still feel unhappy? Is it possible?
Yes.
How? How can you be successful and still be unhappy? How's that possible? Yes?
Because you do not follow your own rules. You are really influenced by the society, by the parents, by the relatives. You basically start following them, not your own inner calling.
The worst type of success is when you fulfill all of your goals and then realize they were somebody else's goals. If we have the wrong definition of success, then all of that success won't make us happy. What's more, if we pursue that success in the wrong way, it would lead to anxiety and unhappiness in our life. And what's more, if we don't know how to utilize success in our life, then even that success can lead to unhappiness. Therefore, the very, very first thing that's happening in the Gita is that Krishna is teaching Arjuna how to redefine success. The Gita is 18 chapters long, isn't it? 700 verses. How long did it take to speak? 45 minutes, everyone says. There are different conversations in the Gita. The first conversation in the Gita is between Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya. This is the outermost conversation. It begins in 1:1 and it ends in 1878. This conversation takes place where? Does it? Hastinapur. Because Sanjaya is having divine vision. The next conversation of the Gita takes place between Krishna and Arjuna. And that begins in 2:7 and ends in 1873. And that conversation takes place where? In Kurukshetra. But the innermost conversation is that the Gita is a conversation which takes place between God and the soul. And that takes place where? In the heart. And therefore, if you look very, very closely, what is it that triggers every single one of these conversations? there's one thing that triggers Dhritarashtra's question. There's one thing that triggers Arjun's question. And there's one thing that triggers the soul's question. What is that? Doubt. Dhritarashtra had a doubt. Therefore he asked the question. Arjun had a doubt. Therefore he asked the question. Within every single living entity there is a doubt. I don't think this is going to work. But what 99.99% of people do when the doubt comes is they ignore it. But when you explore it, that's when the Bhagavad Gita begins. So therefore, there's a doubt about success. And Arjun is beginning the questioning. Arjun says, profit, position, prosperity, power, popularity, I can get all of these things. I know. Arjun's name is Dhananjaya, the one who is the winner of wealth. He can get all of these things. But he's thinking, there must be something missing. I don't think this is going to make me happy. Dhritarashtra, he wants all of these things. He's ambitious. But Arjun can have all of these things and he's just confused. And so, Arjun's conclusion is that if you try to pursue material happiness and you neglect the other side of life, this is not going to work. If you simply try to enjoy the world, that's not going to work. It's not going to make you happy. So then Arjun, his conclusion is, forget the material side of life. Just pursue spiritual life. Escape the world. And what does Krishna say? No, even that won't work. What you have to do is you have to pursue both side by side. In other words, you have to engage with the world. That will actually bring you prosperity on every level. And so, spiritualists are the most ambitious. Sometimes people become very scared when you become spiritual because they think you're going to lose. My name used to be Sandeep. So my dad said to me, don't go too deep. Sandeep, don't go too deep. Because he thought that, well, you're probably right actually, but generally, people will just eject themselves. But what Krishna is telling Arjuna is that you have to pursue both side by side. And therefore, the first chapter of the Gita, don't skip over it, because sometimes you think it's just names of conch shells and this blowing and this person, and not much philosophy there, a lot of philosophy. Because before you can realize what is success, you have to realize what is not success. And in the first chapter of the Gita, Arjuna is realizing this is not success. The world will tell us things happen to you. But Krishna will teach us things don't happen to you. Things happen for you. We think we're just victims. We think that it's just happening to us, aimlessly, purposely, meaninglessly. No, everything is happening to us. Every time there's a breakdown, it's an opportunity for a breakthrough. The world will tell us success is doing things better. The Gita will teach us success is doing better things. Ask yourself, where should you invest your time, energy, effort, and heart? Because otherwise you might meet all your goals and still be unhappy. The world sometimes feels material and spiritual are opposed, but material and spiritual can actually be complementary. Arjun will win the kingdom. Arjun will be successful. Arjun will be crowned, the next monarch along with his brothers. But at the same time, he'll be extremely spiritually elevated. And the world will tell you just focus on earning a living. But the Gita will teach us we must earn a life. Living is not life. So, this is the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The very first thing that Krishna is teaching us in the Gita is to redefine success. Success is not simply in the material realm. All of you know this. You're already on the journey. But it's good for you to recap so you can also explain to others. Success begins when we look at what is beyond just the temporary. Okay, so now we're going on the journey of the Gita. It's going to be 18 chapters long. In the first chapter, Krishna has hardly even spoken. We tell people the first chapter is the context, and the next 17 chapters are the actual text. So Krishna is a good listener. Sometimes you just have to listen to someone first. Don't jump in with the answer. Just listen to them. Nowadays, we're not taught how to listen, isn't it? When you're a kid, your parents don't listen to you. When you're at school, your teachers don't listen to you. When you go to work, your boss doesn't listen to you. When you get married, when your parents, your kids don't listen to you. And when you're old, nobody listens to you. So nobody listens to us in our life. But Krishna is listening to Arjuna. He's giving him a chance. It's very instructive that Krishna doesn't say anything in the beginning. Krishna allows Arjuna to come to his own realization that material things won't make me successful. Unless and until one has that firm conviction, the rest of the journey of the Gita can't really take place. And so this is the first teaching. Now let's go further. The next thing Krishna teaches Arjuna is to rediscover your identity. Remember, every chapter of the Gita is a yoga. So the second chapter is known as Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya has different meanings, but one of the meanings is that Sankhya means analysis. In the world, everyone is analyzing something. Me and my dad were mad cricket fans, so we used to analyze all the scores. Sometimes people are analyzing sports. Sometimes they're analyzing politics. Sometimes they're analyzing people. Everyone is analyzing something. But Krishna says, the very first analysis that everyone has to do is the analysis which separates spirit from matter. If you do this analysis first, you understand what's the difference between spirit and matter, then every other analysis is worth it. If you don't understand this analysis, if you don't understand this foundational truth, everything else is just information that's not really going to help you in your life. And so the very first thing that Krishna does is he helps Arjuna to understand the difference between spirit and matter. Arjuna is an archer. And when an archer is launching an arrow, what's the very first thing the archer does? Pulls it back. So Krishna has told him, you should be successful in your life. But in order to be successful, you have to know what is your dharma. Dharma means your purpose. But in order to know what is your dharma, you have to know your identity. So Krishna has told him, redefine success. Now Krishna is saying, to understand how to achieve that success, first you have to understand identity. So success, there is material side, power, position, prosperity, all of that stuff. And then there is spiritual and inner happiness. And therefore, dharma, there is a material dharma. That's your dharma here, right here, in this life. But there's also a spiritual dharma. An identity is a material identity. Krishna is going to teach Arjuna, you have a material identity. But Krishna is also going to teach Arjuna, you have a spiritual identity. Most people in the world only know about this. They only know about their material identity, and therefore whole life they're only doing their material duties, and therefore they may get material success, and they think that's life. But that is simply existing. If you want to live, then you have to factor in this side. So now, Krishna will teach Arjuna, what is your identity? And what does Krishna teach? Natvevaham jatunasham natam me janadipa nacheva na bhavishyama sarveva ayamataparam. Krishna says, you're not this body. We need to hear this again and again. We're not this body. We're not this mind. We're spiritual beings. We're just on a journey, just passing through, just here for some time. And therefore Krishna says you have a physical body and you have a subtle body. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kamano buddhirevacha ahankara iti ame bhinna prakritirashtada. Physical body means earth, water, fire, air, ether. Subtle body, mind, intelligence, ego. Most people think they are the mind. I tell people the mind is not the root of consciousness. The mind is the root of consciousness. Consciousness just comes through the mind. It doesn't come from the mind. It's very powerful. Krishna is going to explain more about this later. So Krishna says, you're not the physical or the subtle, you are the spiritual. And the spiritual is Sat, Chit, Ananda. Eternal, full of knowledge, and blissful. How does every single fairy tale in the world end? They lived happily ever after. Dear friend, this is a deep theological statement. Lived means chit, aware, conscious, sentient. Happily means ananda, blissful. And ever after means subject. Every fairy tale is actually pointing you towards the nature of the soul. But does anyone live happily ever after in this world? Therefore, Krishna is teaching you can live happily ever after, but you need to know you're a spiritual being beyond the gross and the subtle. So we're moving from destination to destination. The soul is being carried by the subtle body. I could spend so much time talking about this. This explains so many things in our life. It answers so many questions. It's very, very powerful knowledge. So like this, the soul is who we are. This is a famous Upanishadic analogy. You all know this. The horses are like the senses. The reins are like the mind. The driver is the intelligence. And the passenger is the soul. And so it should be going this way. But what happens in most people's lives is it goes this way. Everything is being led by the senses because people don't understand that that is just instrumentation. I have to awaken my own consciousness and drive the trajectory of my life. So, like this, can you see what Krishna is doing? Krishna is teaching Arjuna, yes, you should be successful, and that success is in the material and the spiritual. So, know that you have a svadharma, which is related to the body and the mind, or the body and the subtle body. But know that you are also a soul, and as a soul you have a sanatana dharma. And when you do both of these side by side, when you integrate them, then what happens is you can achieve success on both sides. It's not about escaping the world. It's not about enjoying the world. It's about engaging with the world. So know that both of these sides of life are very, very important. This is your role. And this is your identity. The basic problem in life is that people mistake their role for their identity. You play your role, but you understand and connect with your identity. So this is how Krishna is gradually teaching Arjuna. And this is why we wake up in the morning and do spiritual activity first. Because the whole idea is that when we wake up in the morning, why are we doing all this spiritual activity? So that we connect with our first identity. So once you connect with your first identity, then you understand. Everything else in life is just a role. See, in life we all had many different identities. We were a student. That identity finished. Cricketer. I was for a short time. That identity definitely finished. Shy to some extent, finished, lost the innocence. Manager, at some point, that identity gone. Healthy, fast, disappearing. Rich, never had it in the first place, but even that will go. Famous. Someone's famous. In a moment, in some years, everyone has their day and then everyone makes way. Someone else becomes famous. You lose it. Husband or wife. But then at some point, time comes. Even that one's gone. Atheist. No one's an atheist in the face of death. Even that one goes. Every single one of our identities will be taken away. Time takes away all the identities. So Krishna says, connect with your deepest identity and then pursue success from that perspective, not neglecting your role, but just understanding it's a role. I'm a spiritual being. And when we do that, then we live a much, much more happier and healthy life. So can you see how Krishna is teaching Arjuna to rethink life? People will tell you spirituality comes later. No. Spirituality comes first. Once we had one monk, he wanted to join the temple, so a delegation of his family came to discuss the matter. And then his father stepped forward and told our head monk, I don't mind him becoming a monk. Let him grow up. Let him finish his degree, get a job, have a family. Let him be successful and let his kids grow up to be his age and then he can do it. So the devotee looked at the father and said, forget him, we'll take you instead. He was not ready. He was not ready. Because people always say later. It doesn't make sense. It's first. You have to understand identity first. Then you can understand dharma. Then you can be successful. How you can be successful if you don't know dharma? How you can know dharma if you don't know identity? My job and relationships are my identity. True? No. It's simply a role. You are not a mother. You are a spirit soul, temporarily taking care of a soul to guide them on their journey back to Krishna. I have a soul. True? I have a body. I am the soul. And everything is taken away from me. Is it? Everything is taken away. That's not me. Time will take away everything from you because that's not you. You're not your abilities. You're not the different identities or roles that you play. You're not your facilities. So one by one, take it all away, to reveal to you who you really are. This is how time works in the world. So can you see what Krishna is doing to Arjuna? The Gita is 45 minutes long. That means 2 chapters. How long did that take? 9. 5 minutes? In 5 minutes, just look at how much Krishna has done. It's powerful, this is Krishna. In 5 minutes, Krishna has already shifted the perspectives. It's just the start. This is how powerful the knowledge of the Gita is. So like this, step by step, Krishna is teaching Arjuna to rethink life. And now, we'll go further later on and see what Krishna says. But let me just pause here and see whether you may have any questions or anything I said which you would like clarification on. Yes, Prabhu. You can maybe shout for now.
Loud enough. Prabhuji, we do have certain identities and roles that we carry on, right? One of the primary roles that I am doing at the moment is being a parent, right? And often when we are raising our kids, right, we do show them what's the success. And more often than not, it is the material side. So how do we juggle between what we just spoke about now? And remember, I think it was like 3 or 4 it was, wherein it showed the 2 ways, right? Engaging and
Escaping.
Yes. Yeah. So how do I make sure that I have that equilibrium between the 2? Because I am, at least for me personally, I'm very, very confused. How do I do it for my kid? Because I tell them, oh, look, this is what happened, this is what success looks like, right? But in the spiritually, yeah, he's also going through this phase, and he's, I'm very fortunate to be part of the congregation. But personally, how I can actually elevate him to see both the sides equally, because it's also important that he rises up materialistic as well.
So as a parent, you have the duty to take care of your child, and you want him to be materially successful and also spiritually successful side by side. So how do you encourage in that? How do you inspire that? Well, the first thing is we have to walk the talk. We have to be living that balance. We have to be showing that example. We have to be the one who he can see, or she can see, is the one who's practicing that. Children will follow what you do more than even what you say. And therefore, often so many parents come to the manor, our temple in London, and on a Sunday morning they'll drop their kids off and say, learn Bhagavad Gita. And then after dropping their kids off, they'll go to the shopping centre, the golf course, the shopping mall, go and visit all their friends, and at the end of the day they'll come back, pick them up and say, did you learn Bhagavad Gita? So therefore, the first thing is that we have to live it. We have to show that we're doing both things, that we understand our spiritual identity, we're framing everything spiritually, and at the same time we're doing our duties in the world. And then from that platform, yes, we can get them to balance it. Spiritual people can be the most successful in the world, actually, on a material level. Because spiritual people are not doing it with attachment. They're not doing it with ego. They're doing it for a pure and sincere purpose. And therefore, they actually have the greatest chance of being successful in the world. And so, you see, here's a bottle. Now imagine I cut the top of this bottle so it was just like this from here down. And I wanted to put a big rock, some small pebbles, some sand and water into it. Then if I start with the water, put the sand, put the small pebbles, and then try and fit the big one in, you know what's going to happen. But if I put the big pebble in, and then I put the small pebbles around it, and then I pour the sand into the gaps, and then I put the water in to be absorbed in everything, it fits perfectly. Spirituality comes first. That doesn't mean material things are unimportant, but it means that you understand this is the foundation. And if you start from that foundation, not only can you be materially competent, you can be the most successful. But the problem is, most of the world, what they do is they say spirituality later, or they say spirituality now, but spirituality as an add-on. As an add-on. Like sometimes you used to get an ice cream, and then they used to put some nice syrup on the top. A little bit on the top. We have our week, and then Sunday, 1 hour, little bit on the top. Nice. So then, if it's only an add-on, then you forget the basis. So we are not, Krishna is telling Arjuna, I don't want you to eject yourself from the world, but I want you to start with a spiritual perspective. Does it make sense? Yeah. 11:50. Okay. Yes, yes.
My question is, of course, the first chapter, everybody can understand the depression, distress, all those things. The second chapter, material identity, you know, like I'm dad, husband, son, all these identity, I can understand. But when you say real identity is the soul, so what is the soul? Or how do we identify? Only we know the definition of what it is. Like a manager, we know the definition. A dad, we know the definition. Husband, we know the definition. Soul, every time we hear soul.
What is the soul? Anyway, thank you so much, Guru. Very good. Well, the first thing is that soul is consciousness. Soul is who you are. Soul has qualities, Satchit Ananda, so that defines the nature of the soul. So what is the soul supposed to do? Jivara Swarupa hoy, Krishnera Nityadas, Krishnera Tatastha Shakti Veda Veda Prakash. Next, detail of information is given about the soul, that the soul is meant to serve. When we're in material consciousness, then we're trying to enjoy. When we understand I'm a soul, then we realize I'm designed to serve. So that's the next detail of information given. Then Krishna in the second chapter goes into even more detail. The soul cannot be cut, the soul cannot be dried, the soul is, of this nature. He goes into even more detail. And then later on in other scriptures, it's mentioned that as a soul, we all have a Swarup. Rup means a form, and Swarup means your own eternal form. So as a soul, we all have an eternal role, an eternal identity in the spiritual world. And so the soul is who we are. And the scriptures explain how you detect the soul, what is the nature of the soul, what is the function of the soul, and what that soul does in eternity in the spiritual world in its relation to God, in terms of activities and relationship. So everything is there. But most people don't take the time to read. We're more interested in the news than in who we are. It's amazing. It's amazing that people are more interested in reading the news and figuring out what everyone else is doing out there in the world than understanding who they are in eternity. Is actually inconceivable. But that's what's happening. Most people are like, yeah, whoever I am, whatever the world is, I really need some money right now. But that's the basic defect of the world. So therefore, we need to take time. I mean, imagine if you got onto a train, and so someone's sitting opposite you, and you ask them, where did you come from? And they look at you and say, I don't know. Okay. Then you ask them, where are you going, by the way? I don't know. But what are you doing here on this train? Well, I don't know. I mean, they're going to be like calling the psychiatrist here. Is this guy okay? Like, he has no idea where he's come from, where he's going, why he's here. We live our life like this. Anyway, wherever I came from, I'm here. Whatever happens after this death, I'm here now. And I'm here, I don't really know why I'm here, but anyway, let me just get on with it. That's what we're doing. That's why Srila Prabhupada went into the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, Ivy League. And Prabhupada stood in front of all the students and he says, where is the department in this university to study who you are? And it was like, we got a department for AI, but we don't know who the original intelligence is. Oh, why? Maybe we need a department. Everyone, I was just in Davos, World Economic Forum, everyone is talking about AI. And nobody wants to know, oh, why? So, it's crazy. This is the world we're living in. You can get a PhD in golf course management. But I have no idea who I am. That's okay. No problem. So this knowledge is there. We have to study. Isn't it? All right, one more question maybe.
So Maharaj, my question is around the principles. So when you connect, like in the morning with God, your values and principles are very pure. But when you come and face reality, the principles are against it. So how do you live your life then? Because everyone is standing in front of you to exploit you. And if you follow your religious principles, spiritual principles, it doesn't work that way.
Okay. Do we have 10 minutes? Or no?
11:50, Maharaj.
11:50? Okay, I'll do one more section because it's related to this now. Yeah. So we speak this and then... let's see if we get through 18. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, Mataji, the question you asked is exactly the same question that Arjun asked. Arjun is listening to Krishna. He's like, I understand it. I get it. I'm a spiritual being. But now you want me to stay here? Can you see the next 3 chapters of the Gita? What is the common word? Every single one of the next chapters of the Gita are all to do with karma. Because Krishna is going to convince Arjuna that you have to act. You cannot leave the world. You have to be spiritual while being in the world. And Arjuna doesn't think it's possible. This is it. I used to go on the London Underground to university every day, the underground train. And once I was sitting on the underground train, and I thought, this is a prison. Sometimes we feel like that, no? Our life is like a prison. So difficult, so many things to balance, so many things to manage, so many restrictions. You feel like you're not able to just be yourself. It's very, very hard. We're trying to live these 2 sides of life, and I say it's very easy, no? Just join the 5 a.m. club, like you said. It's good when you're chanting in the morning. But then, there's the 9 a.m. reality. Isn't it? Exactly the same question you asked. Arjuna already asked it. Therefore, he said to Krishna, why do you want me to engage in this war? Do you think it's possible to really live in this world and at the same time be spiritual? What makes it hard? Tell me. What makes it hard for you to live in the world and be spiritual? Just shout out. People. Desires. Expectations. Responsibilities. Environment. What else? Come on, this is your chance to vent. Pardon me? Fear of what? Failure. So like opinion? Public opinion. So how you'll fail, you'll be embarrassed. Time.
Reputation.
FOMO.
Reputation. Reputation.
Reputation.
Health.
Future.
Health. Alright, let's stop there. Arjun says, Krishna, I want to go to the forest. If you go to the forest, will you have the problem of people? Unless you take your husband or wife with you. If you go to the forest, will you have a problem of a chaotic environment?
Yes.
If you go to the forest, will you have a problem of time? Oh, I mean, what are you going to do in the forest? There's nothing to do. Plenty of time. If you go to the forest, will you have the problem of expectation? No, but there's no one around you. There's no expectations, no opinions. If you fail anyway, nobody will see you. If you go to the forest, you have a problem of responsibilities? No. Problem of reputation? No. So many problems are solved. You just go to the forest. So, here you go. We're signing people up today. Well, look, you are complaining, no? Complaining. Hello, let's go. In one Jain monastic tradition, when you become a monk, you don't shave your head. You pluck every single hair out with your hand. Now you know why I became a Hare Krishna monk. Go to Kumbh Mela, try. Krishna says to Arjuna, you can't walk away. Even though you think it will solve all your problems on a practical level, you won't even be able to maintain your body, your family, the society won't be maintained. It's not possible. Krishna says, even if you can maintain yourself, you can't go to the forest because you will carry your mind with you. In the forest, you'll be there in that beautiful surroundings and you'll be thinking, I wonder who won the cricket match. And spiritually, Krishna is saying you don't understand that every single obstacle that you're facing is part of your development. It's not opposed to your development. It's there for a reason. Weight training means there has to be resistance. If I say I'm going to lift this, well, good luck. There's no resistance. You build muscle by resistance, and then you still go. Isn't it? So, Krishna says you have to do karma yoga. You have to be involved in the world but not entangled. How do you practice karma yoga? What does that even mean? I'll give you 6 words. First thing is resonate. Krishna says each of us have a swadharma. The first and most important thing is whatever you do in the world should be according to your swadharma. Don't do somebody else's swadharma. Don't do somebody else's career. Follow your dharma. Dharma rakshita rakshita. If you protect your dharma will protect you. Refine. This means sattva. Later on in the Gita, Krishna will explain how you live a refined lifestyle in sattva. If you live with habits of goodness, then you can live in the world and you'll have much more resilience physically and also mentally. Results, seva. Once you work in the world, then use those results for Krishna, for service, for selfless purposes. Swasthya, rest. Take care of your health. Everything should not be back to back. You should have breathing space. You should have leisure time in your life. According to Ayurveda, half the stomach solids, 1/4 water, and final quarter sweets. Air, isn't it? So you need air. Otherwise you can't digest. But what we do is we pack our life too much, back to back, back to back. Then, smarana. Remember Krishna. Invoke a remembrance of Krishna. And remainder means sadhana. Outside of your work, do spiritual practice. Now, all of you, mark yourself out of 100 on each of these 6 points. How much are you living in your swadharma? How much are you living sattva? But here it says 11:22.
Yeah, that's fine. 11:15. That's what I'm saying. Not 15.
Oh, 11:15. I thought you said 11:50.
I know.
Oh, okay. Oh, so I have 40 minutes.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, I thought it was good.
So Maharaj, we are waiting for Prashadam to come so you can continue.
Oh, okay. Seva. How much of my results am I utilizing in service? That means not just money, but your intelligence, your influence, what the results you get, how you rest. How balanced is my lifestyle? Do I have breathing space? Do you have time to just sit down, think? Remembrance. How much do I invoke a remembrance of Krishna in my daily life? In the car, you can listen to something. On your computer, you can have pictures. Different ways you can invoke. And what is the level of my sadhana? Now, generally, if you can mark yourself out of 100 on each one of these, and then start bringing the numbers up on each one of these 6 things, then you become a karma yogi. Then Krishna says you can deal with any amount of chaos in this world and it won't affect your spiritual status. It's possible. We have devotees who are living, who are functioning in high, positions in corporate companies, and are incredibly spiritually deep. Because it all depends on how you engineer your lifestyle. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, you can do it. You can do it. I'm not going to go through this because I don't have time. But it's very much possible to do it. Okay? So the world tells you give your best from 9 to 5. According to our understanding, you give your best between 5 and 9. Because that's when you rest. That's when you realign. And that's when you reconnect with Krishna. If you rest on time, if you wake up on time, and you first thing in the morning you connect with Krishna, then what you do between 9 and 5 will be powerful. But the world focuses on activity, but doesn't understand consciousness is what's driving everything. The world will tell you you can be anything you want to be. That's not actually true. Because each of us have a dharma. Therefore, Krishna says you can be everything you are meant to be. Each of us has a unique role to play. And we need to find that dharma. And then we need to honor that dharma. Einstein said everyone is a genius. But if you convince a fish that it has to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking it's a failure. The world will train you to obsess about success. But what does Krishna say? Focus on the process. Don't obsess about success. If you're a student and you've got exams coming up, don't obsess about getting the highest grades. Focus on what you're supposed to be doing now to prepare yourself to take those exams. Always assign goals in your life to that which is in your control. The result is not in your control, so don't make that your goal. Make your goal something you can control. My God, this turned into a poem. Make your goal something you can control. Your goal should be related to your effort, to your endeavor, not to the result. And the world will tell you, use your success to enjoy. No. Use your success to serve. If you become successful in the world, that in itself won't make you happy. But if you become successful in the world, and then you use that to serve the world, that will make you extremely spiritually satisfied. And so can you see here how in every section, Krishna is teaching us to rethink the way we approach life. So yes, it's difficult. When you live in the world and you have so many other people around you and so many other pressures, it's not easy. But if you follow these things, then you will have the spiritual strength and the presence of mind, the strength of mind to remain unaffected by things. Does that help? Okay. Any other questions on this section? Okay.
Krishna Maharaj. My question is regarding Swadharma. How do you understand what is Swadharma? Do you look at the Varma or do you look at the job you're doing? Or?
So how do we define, how do we discover our Swadharma?
Yes.
So, Dharma has two aspects, a Varna and an ashram. So an ashram means a stage of life, and a Varna means an occupation. So 4 and 4. There's 4 Varnas and there's 4 ashrams. So each person has to understand, where do I play, what stage of life am I in? That one's usually easier. Student, married, retired, or sannyas. Yeah. They also go in a progression generally. You go through all of them. Student means learn, householder means earn, retired means turn, and sannyas means burn. Sannyas hopefully means return to the spiritual. So you may not become a sannyasi, but the principle that at the end of life you dedicate everything. So that one's generally easier. The hard one is the occupation. Because most of us just do a job because it earns us money. But we feel miserable. We don't feel like we're utilizing our abilities. In fact, we dread going into work. Now, you can't immediately change that. But over time, if you try to find what are your abilities, then you'll actually notice that you can actually not only be more satisfied, but also earn very well if you follow your Dharma. So how do you find that Dharma? So I tell people 3 things. Analyze, ask, and attempt. First thing is, analyze your personality. What are your qualities? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What environments do you thrive in? What kind of activities do you do, which when you do them, you lose a sense of time? What do your friends always tell you you're good at? You'll do a personality test. Like this, we begin to understand more what kind of psychophysical nature have I been given. Then the second thing you can do is ask. That's why we have guides. That's why we have mentors. That's why we have coaches, because they can help us to understand what we can't see in ourselves. So then we take guidance. And then the last thing is that if you want to find your Dharma, just attempt. Just try different things. Learn a course. If you think, maybe I should be a teacher, do a course on teaching. Attempt it. See what it feels like. But what happens is once we get into a comfortable situation in life which is earning us money, then we think that's the goal of life and we stop there. At the end of life, we might think, I spent so many years doing that, but it didn't fulfill me. So you're already in a job, you have many responsibilities, you can't just eject yourself and do something kamikaze. I'm finding my Dharma now. But step by step. Like to give an example, one of our devotees in London was a lawyer. earning good money. But he felt, this is not my dharma. So what he did is, instead of working 5 days a week, he worked 4 days a week, and the 5th day, he started learning coaching. After he finished his coaching degree, he started coaching people on that day. He met with some success, and then he started doing it 2 days a week. And then eventually, he started coaching for 5 days a week. Now he's a full-time coach. He's doing what he loves, and the most amazing thing is, he's earning more money than what he earned as a lawyer. Because dharma rakshita, you protect your dharma. Because from dharma, see, what does Vedic teachings tell us? Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So if you follow dharma, you have to get artha. From dharma comes artha. Wealth will come. But step by step, like that. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, yeah, 2 questions. Yes, you can shout.
Yeah. Maharaj, when you talk about success, and you mentioned like spiritual comes first, and then you mentioned spiritual comes first, and then the material duties. But then we've also been hearing that as you practice the spiritual life, Krishna sometimes takes things away from you, and sometimes that is your material success. So how do we, that's something that we work hard for, although we preach our spiritual life first. But how do we understand that? How do you understand that Krishna is taking it away from me for my good, although from a duty perspective I have to still work on that?
Remember, don't obsess about success. Focus on the process. So as a karma yogi, as a bhakta, as a devotee, you have to do your duty. But Krishna says, ma karma phalahetur bhur. You're not in control of the results. So therefore, if Krishna decides to take it away, if Krishna decides to make something we try a failure, at the end of the day, if you can go to bed at night saying, I tried my best, then you have to understand that Krishna taking it away doesn't make us anything like a failure, because we've done our best. So sometimes Krishna may take it away because spiritually it's good for us. That doesn't mean we're somehow losing out on the material side, because on the material side all we can do is endeavor. So the main question we have to ask when we go to bed at night is, did I do everything I could do? Did I invest the totality of my effort and endeavor? And that's what makes you a success in your material duties. Not that it worked out in a certain way. That's not what makes you a success. There's 3 things that you have control of: your action, your attention, and your intention. That's all you're in control of. You're not in control of anything else. So when you come towards any activity, you have to ask yourself, did I put in the effort? Did I put in the necessary amount of attention and mental focus? And am I doing it with my heart? Or am I doing it half-heartedly? Once you've invested all of that, you can sit back and say, now Krishna, make me a success or failure as you wish, as Prabhupada did. Because that's karma yoga. And after you've done all of this, Krishna still may take everything away. Krishna still may make something fail. Krishna's plan is always better than ours, so he's leading us to something better. Does that make sense?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, you've already partly answered my question, but it's about the role of planning in our life. One point of view is that failing to plan is planning to fail. So you have to have a plan. But the other point of view is that my plan is not going to work. It's Krishna's plan. So you take a day as it comes, and whatever Krishna throws at us, you pray to Krishna and just live life a day by day. Now, these are opposite point of views, and which is a better way to live? That's my question.
Thank you. So there is a difference between a plan and an expectation. We have plans, we have to make plans, but we don't have expectations. When we go in front of Krishna, we put a plan in front of Krishna. Krishna, this is how I think I will do it for you. This is my idea, this is my vision. Now Krishna, you do whatever you want to do with it. But the moment you put a plan in front of Krishna and you have an attachment, and then you become displaced when it doesn't work like that, that becomes an expectation. And that's unhealthy. So everyone has to have a plan, right? Like when Arjuna was on the battlefield, he had to have a plan. But at the same time, what did Krishna say? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhacha. So you make your plan, you fight, but then surrender it to me. Remember me, and I'll do the rest of it. So yeah, like that. One extreme is to think that I don't need to do anything because Krishna is doing everything. And another extreme is to think I'm doing everything, Krishna doesn't even come into the equation. But the middle ground is to know Krishna is looking for me to make my effort and do my part, and then he'll take the reins over from there. Does that make sense?
Thank you very much.
All right. Is that a question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, between chapter 3 to 6, Krishna focused so much on renouncing results, Nishkam Karma Yoga, and so Nishkam Karma Yoga, renouncing results, Yukta Vairagya and all that stuff. So the thing is, you also mentioned focus on the process, journey, more than the results. So what happens is, if we focus just on the process and not on the results, a sense of detachment develops. And with time it becomes intense because you are not focusing on the results, so you don't have any wish, you don't have anything in mind. So what's the right approach? How should we do it?
See, we've been trained in the world that when you focus on the results, that's going to make you the most successful. That's our thought process. Our intuitive response to this is, if I'm detached from the results, why would I even try? Right? But it's actually the opposite. When you're a karma yogi, what happens is that when you're successful, then you remain humble. Because you realize, I'm not the one who controlled the result. Krishna did it. But when you think I'm in control, I'm causing the result, then when you're successful, you become proud, and then you become complacent, and then you actually become more and more ineffective. And a karma yogi, when they're externally a failure, then they never become hopeless because they realize Krishna is in control. And therefore I just need to keep trying. Obviously Krishna didn't want it to happen. And therefore they need never lose hope. So a karma yogi never becomes complacent and they never become depressed or hopeless. And that means that a karma yogi can actually achieve the most things in the world. Whereas when one thinks, I'm the doer, I'm the one who's causing the result, and I judge my self-worth based on the result, then you're actually going to become more ineffective. Remember, when you attach goals to what is in your control, you actually end up performing better. But what the whole world does is they make goals based on that which is out of their control. And that makes you depressed. Therefore, focus on the process. if you put your best effort into your action, attention, and intention, there's no way you can't maximize your success. Because that's what's driving the success. Does that make sense?
Sometimes I think also part of the question might be that, like sometimes in certain occupations, people are forced to focus on
Results, yeah, that's how those.
So what I was trying to ask is, so is it more in that case, it's not that you don't focus on the results, it's more that, yes, I focus on the results, but whether they eventuate or not, that is up to Krishna.
Yes.
So in other words, you're still striving, but you're detaching from whether Krishna allows to happen.
See, the whole idea about results, this is how the science of karma works. There's an action, and then there's a reaction. But the action is not the only thing that's causing the reaction. The other thing is it's action plus intention, and it's karma also. So karma plus intention plus your action will bring about a reaction. Okay? So now what the whole world is doing is they're placing all the emphasis here. They're measuring their success here on the result or the reaction. But this is in our control, this is in our control, but this is not in our control. I say karma here, we can also just say Krishna. Just say whichever one you want to call it. That is not in our control. So, if you put all your emphasis here, how can you know whether you're successful or not? Because this factor you don't know. This is unknown to you. Therefore, I don't know if I'm making sense, but the karma yogi, what they do is they put all the emphasis here. Because I know that if I do the best here, then whatever this is, that's out of my control anyway, and whatever happens here is influenced by all of this. I don't know about that, but I know that what was in my control, I did the best. And that's why I would say we learn from results. I think when you get a result, you can learn from it, but I don't think we focus on it. Because the karma yogi focuses on the endeavor. Because the result doesn't actually give us any useful information about how well we're doing. Because there's other factors beyond our control which is causing that to transpire. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Yes.
You were talking about action, for attention.
Yes.
Focus.
Action, attention, and intention.
Can you just expand on what that means? You have like more inclusive things.
Action means your effort. The physical effort, the time, the energy, the resource you put into something. Attention means the amount of subtle energy you put into something, the focus. Sorry. What to do? Get a bit of exercise here. So that means the mental energy that you put to focus on something. And intention means how much of your heart you're putting into it. Like, have you noticed people can do something and really focus on it, but their heart's not really there? Like, people do that at work all the time. They're there for like 14 hours a day, and they've got to be concentrating. But their heart's not in it. Some people are just there, they're kind of doing it, but like, we're kind of here, but we're not really at work, we're kind of spacing out. So they're at work, action, but there's no attention. And some people are at work and they kind of focus, but their heart's not in it. So when we come to do something for Krishna, ideally we're trying to invest all three of those things. Does that make sense? Yeah. Oh, is that okay?
Yeah, could go on. No, thank you, Mark.
Could go on. Okay, so it's 11:47. So I think I should not go on to the next one now. We've just got 5 minutes. Is that okay? If there's any last questions. Oh, this paper one as well. Okay, yes. Okay, there's one while you go to the next person. Hare Krishna, who can serve? Do we need to have some sort of opulence to serve? Are services only allocated to devotees who are materially successful? No. Everyone is welcome to serve. There's no material qualification to serve. Of course, certain services may require abilities. Certain services may require one to have a certain aptitude or competence. And therefore, what we would generally do is encourage devotees who have that ability and competence to do that service. If someone wants to do that service but they don't have the ability or competence, then we would try to help them see if they can develop the ability and competence. But then sometimes we have to also accept that certain services are not meant to be done by me because Krishna didn't bless me with that ability in this life. Some of us we're not going to be able to be great cooks, or we're not going to be able to be great singers, or some of us are not going to be great managers. And remember, everyone is a genius, but if you try to copy someone else and do someone else's dharma, you might find that you end up actually dissatisfied. So in answer to this question, you don't get services based on being materially successful, but sometimes services will be allocated to people who have the ability and competence. And if you don't have the ability and competence, definitely the Vaishnava community will help you to develop that. But if after all of that, it's just not meant to be in your nature, then it's also valuable for you to try to find out a service which is in your nature. And that will just be much more beautiful for yourself and for the community. Is that okay? I don't know who asked that question, but if someone wants to follow up.
In one of the lectures in some other country, we were talking about 3 levels that we can serve. And you said that sometimes we go out of our comfort zone to serve. And there's a 3rd level that you mentioned where we realize dependence on Krishna. Completely go out and do something unrelated. So is that going out of, how is that in sync with whatever that you just mentioned, that we serve based on our attributes?
Yeah, so when devotees used to join the ashram, we used to give them 3 types of services. So we say, one type of service everyone should do is the one they like and the one that comes natural to them. Another type of service we should do is the one that's needed. And the other type of service we used to do is the one that was hard. This service gives you inspiration, and generally it also gives you some result, because naturally when you work in your dharma then. This one, just the service of the day, that's whatever's required, that gives you mercy. And it helps you to develop selflessness. Because there it's not that I like to do this, or this is, it's just, no, I'm here as a servant, this is needed, okay, I'll do it. Otherwise we become so much, no, I only do in my dharma. Prabhu, can you wash the pots? It's not in my dharma. Krishna says, follow your dharma. not for me. I'm just following Krishna. No. But higher than that, we're meant to be a servant. And then the one you sometimes do which is hard, that helps you to depend on Krishna. Now, you may say, but then this is out of your dharma. But here you've been saying, be in your dharma. So why would you do something hard? But did you know that sometimes to find your dharma, you have to do something hard? Sometimes within everyone in the audience here is an innate, latent potentiality of service. But often what's blocking us from following that service is some fear. And so sometimes when we do hard services, what we actually begin to discover is something we have within us that we can offer to Krishna that we never thought we had. And therefore, hard services. When I joined the temple at 21, I didn't want to speak. That was hard for me. But they were like, this is it. This is part of the deal. It's part of the contract. And somehow or other that became a service for me now. But if I had not taken and embraced, if you are convenience focused or comfort focused, then you will miss out on discovery. And therefore, if we try to have always some of these, now you can't just do one of these. If you're only doing hard services, you might end up having a nervous breakdown. And if you only do the services which are needed, then after some time you may feel like you're not giving your best potential. And if you only do the services that you like, you may strive, but you may not find you develop the mood of a servant. And therefore, it's always good to do different things like that. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Maharaj. This is from my personal experience, and also many people have asked me about the same phenomenon. When you have your spiritual appetite is greater than your material drives, then you're very excited and enthusiastic about your spiritual practices, about your spiritual life. You are willing to go the extra mile, put in the hard yards, do service enthusiastically, study the scriptures. But mirroring the material side, you kind of not as driven. You don't have that, that appetite to succeed as much as you had in the spiritual side. And what it leads to, like my dad, that he shared a piece of his mind with me, that you're just irresponsible. It is attributed to irresponsible behavior, that you just want to do your spiritual part, and you're not truly driven anymore. So, how do we deal with that? How do we deal with this? Yes, thank you.
Okay. My answer will be purely theoretical, because obviously I never really worked in that way in the world. My understanding of karma yoga is that you can go, and now I'm talking on a very real level, you can go broadly in two directions. One direction is where you can make my career is integrally my service. So for example, someone is really seeing that my career is my service. I'm going to be the best, I'm going to rise the highest, and then with that money, with that influence, with that power, I'm going to do something amazing for Krishna. Then what happens is it becomes clear. All the time and energy and appetite that you have is invested into your career because you really feel that. And some people do that. Like we have investment bankers in London, devotees, who are like climbing to the top and putting lots of energy into being the best they can in their career, because their point is we want to fund all the projects in ISKCON. So that's their meditation, and that's amazing. But some may not have that kind of drive. And therefore, I think the other way to do it is you simplify. And therefore, what you do is you do something in the world that you like, is okay, it gets you by. But what you begin to try to do is spend less and less time in your career for your maintenance. And then what you do is you do direct service instead. So like what some devotees will do, like, I'll give you another example of a devotee in London. He was a consultant, a management consultant, working for Accenture. So he's working 6 days a week. But he realized, it doesn't really resonate with me. So then what he instead did is he kind of, after getting some experience in Accenture, after 1 or 2 years, he sidestepped, he got some businesses going, and now he basically works 2 days a week, 3 days a week, doing his side ventures and all of that, which gets him enough to get by. And then the rest of the time, he comes in, Pujari service, congregational preaching, and just does service 3-4 days a week. So I think you can go one of the other directions. The point is to fill your life with Krishna, somewhere or the other, like that. Does that help? All right. Okay, maybe last question, because I see Prashadam is here.
One question with respect to this, like all our lives revolve again around like earning the artha, So majorly, how to use artha for Krishna is the major consciousness. How to have that, how to spend arthas. Like if I see, I would like to leave all my property or whatever I'm building the legacy for
ISKCON.
Or ISKCON.
Yes, do it. But that may not you, So your question is, how do we spend our artha?
Like you said, for service of Krishna, and keep the charity of your life, charity of your life.
So what does it mean to give your artha to Krishna?
Yes.
What does that mean?
What should be our focus, to spend that artha? What 90% or 80% of our life revolves, For a family, earn this, get a car, get a house, buy 5 houses. So that's the main,
5, okay. Ooh, let's talk later on. All right, so I was mentioning this. I was doing some seminars at Davos at the Economic Forum, so I was discussing with some entrepreneurs. Growth, progress, success. What most people do in the world is they conflate these 3 things. If you're growing, you're progressing. And if you're progressing, you're successful and you're happy. They don't see any distinction between it. But according to Vedic teachings, there is a distinction. You can grow, but only when you grow with character, with ethics, with values, and with balance. Does it actually become progress? More money, more money, more money. But what if you lose your character? What if you lose your health? What if you lose your relationships? What if you lose your peace of mind? Then with all of that growth, did you really progress? No. Therefore, how you pursue success matters, or progress matters. Then, what do you do with that success? When you use that success in service, or that progress in service, contribution, upliftment of society, then it becomes success, and that's what brings happiness. Okay? So, what does this mean? We're saying use your artha in service, in contribution. What does that really mean? So for example, as a movement, we do education. As a movement, we do spiritual welfare work. As a movement, we establish projects. For example, temples, Or for example, ahimsa dairy farms where, or, proper care is taken of cows. Or for example, an eco-village where we show people simple living, high thing. So basically, how do you use your artha? Use your artha for this. To promote education, to promote spiritual projects which teach people a better way to live. You use your artha to basically create a shift in the paradigm of the world. Einstein said you can't solve the problems of the world with the same type of thinking that created them. So when you use your artha to create a paradigm shift in the world, in terms of how people approach life, then that is artha well spent. And how do you do that? You just find a project that you feel inspired by, that you believe in, that you think will make a real change. And within our movement, we have so many things going on. So last year I was in Boston. So I was also at the Harvard Business School. So we have one devotee who created something called the Artha Forum. And the Artha Forum is a forum where very influential, successful people come together and look at how they can utilize money for dharmic projects. And you know what these, practically we were having a meeting, there were 15 very successful entrepreneurs, and all of them, you know what they do? They make businesses. And when they make businesses, they say 50% from the word go of the profits go for dharmic projects. And every single one of them told me that the moment we did that, our businesses became even more successful. One of them was telling me, if I had taken this 50% out, I would have had this much extra profit. But the day I put the 50% in, my total revenue expanded so much that even the 50% of the extended revenue was greater than the 100% of the previous revenue. Because dharma rakshita rakshita. If you spend your money in the right way, why will Krishna not give you more? You become a caretaker of something that is creating upliftment in the world. And so, yes, Krishna is telling Arjuna, stay on the battlefield, O winner of wealth, win the wealth. You should win the wealth because you're the one who knows how to use it. The devotees should be the most rich people in the world. They're not. They should be, because they're the ones who know how to use it. And so it's possible. So anyway, I hope this helps in some way. All right, thank you so much. All right, so we did 3 sections. Let's see how far we will get. But I think you have earned a prasadam break at this point. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,